Former Straits Times editor-in-chief Cheong Yip Seng has called for the paper to reinvent itself as a global news outlet, arguing that Singapore deserves a publication matching its international stature. At the second July launch of his new book Ink and Influence, an Ob Markers sequel, Cheong urged ST to pivot from local news and cater instead to an upmarket, English-speaking global audience with a strong focus on geopolitics. He criticized the bias and hypocrisy of Western media, citing double standards in coverage of the Ukraine and Gaza wars and protests in Hong Kong versus the US Capitol riot. Cheong pointed to ST's respected foreign coverage and argued the paper should fill a gap in the global market, drawing on Singapore's world-class credentials in finance and diplomacy. "Why not add a global newspaper to the list?" he said, calling it a natural step for a maturing global city. The comments section under CNA's Facebook post saw a mix of responses to Cheong's proposal. While a few supported the idea in theory, many netizens expressed skepticism, pointing to the Straits Times' perceived bias in its coverage of local political issues. One user remarked, "Respectfully, all news outlets are biased. It's just where the bias lies." Another commented that ST is biased and shows blatant hypocrisy in its reporting of local political news. Reddit users have criticized the Straits Times for its heavy coverage of the PAP ahead of GE 2025. Media Bias Fact Check rates the paper as right-center biased and mostly factual, but flags its credibility as limited by government censorship and promotion of state narratives. Cheong's call to make the Straits Times a global paper drew ridicule online, with one commenter calling it a brilliant comedy premise for a state-adjacent outlet reliant on government funding, referencing SPH Media Trust's 900 million Singapore dollars support package. "Leave global media domination to outlets without a government allowance," another quipped. A separate user remarked that ST has been steadily losing readers and advertisers, and would likely have collapsed without state support. "The quality of ST journalism and editorials is biased and appalling," the user wrote, comparing it unfavorably to the independence and quality of Western media. Another user offered a deeper critique, suggesting that when even the former editor-in-chief acknowledged the Straits Times could drop local coverage without much loss, it signaled a deeper issue within the organization. ST didn't decline because of TikTok or changing reading habits. It declined because it betrayed the one currency journalism lives and dies by: trust. At Cheong Yip Seng's book launch, ex-Straits Times editor Bertha Henson questioned his call to refocus the paper on geopolitics, saying ST no longer has the foreign coverage capacity it once did. She criticized its lousy local reporting, noting it lacks daily editorials, and highlighted how CNA and Mothership now outperform ST.